Hi everyone, it's Beverly Cole, but you can call me Bev. First thing I want to do is say a huge thank you to Natasha for sending so many people over to my site and for all of you who subscribed. Today we're going to be working on a special little project. These are called mini journals. You can make them out of these little notebooks that you can get in packages of at least 4 at Walmart or even from Amazon. It's going to make this project super fun and super simple. So let's get started on these. First, let me say, you can make these personalized as little stocking stuffers or little personal gifts. This one isn't really specified for any particular person. It's just vintage, which is my favorite thing. I used papers that I had, and I used washi tape that I had. Everything that I used to make this is something that I already had. I used a piece of torn sheet to make this little tie. And here I want to show you how to make a perfect bow. Instead of going under the loop like we do when we tie our shoes, go over the loop and your bow will be perfect. You may want to rewind this and watch it again if you don't already know how to do this. It just looks very cute. It may not be a part of the journal forever, but it makes it look very special. And all dressed up. This one is for someone that may like to go on cruises. I have a lot of friends that go cruising. I don't because I have an RV now. But a little notebook that they can use to go on a cruise and write down all the special moments could be something very special to them. Then they could just put it on a shelf or on the table to reminisce. I want you to notice the ladies' faces that I use. That's just a little hint. Now, this one's made for me, from Florida to Maine. That's what we did this past summer. We work camped in Maine. I used everything that I already had, washi tape. I inked the edges of the pages. And this is the one we're going to do in this video together. I used some special little dots, and I'll explain it later, to make it more three-dimensional and special. This little book is made for anyone who is a friend of yours. The little dots that I'm going to show you here are made with Nuvo drops, which dry clear. And they take, it depends on how hot it is. I put mine in the window and it dried in minutes, but it may take up to a half an hour. It just makes the book come alive and be more three-dimensional. Now here's an idea of how to store these during the holidays. Now I'm going to do some Christmas crafting coming up in the next video, and those could be added to this idea as well. This is a card that I already had on hand, and I've already used quite a few of these. I've met people from different places. I give them the cards that they can use as a special little gift, and they just love it. The words that are packaged in there can be peel and stick to add to the cover, but you don't have to. I have a video about how to make these cards, and I'll put it in the description below. But see how festive already just a few things in a bowl look. It makes you feel so satisfied and really prepared for whatever comes along. Now here's the sheet that I'm offering to you in my Ko-fi shop. It's a free sheet that you can download. And it has things that I have created. I actually created them with artificial intelligence, which was kind of fun, but it's not something I'd like to do all the time. But I really like how these faces came out, so I hope you do too. So I'm going to use that to make our book. Also, any kind of a sheet of anything you have that you can use for the back cover. I decided to use this kind of scribbly handwriting for my back cover. You'll need some glue. It doesn't have to be 3-in-1. It could even be double-sided tape. Whatever you enjoy using. You may need a pencil, some distress ink, a sand sanding block or a nail file. You'll need your bone folder, some detail scissors, and also some larger scissors. These are just really basic supplies that we all have. Then you'll need some washi tape to go along with your theme. And this is matte medium. I like matte because I just think matte goes better with vintage than gloss. This is a piece of deli paper to put in between the pages when you are using the matte medium. And of course, my ever-present circle punch. Now these are just the things that I had, but you can use whatever you have. If you're watching this, you're probably not brand new to journaling. But if you are and you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Now here I'm just cutting everything apart, and I'm leaving some white around the edges to make it look like little photographs. But you don't have to. You could cut it all off. Distress the edges. Do whatever you want. Here I'm just cutting everything apart. And you'll get this sheet. You'll have everything, of course, that's on this sheet. This green piece is for the inside covers. And this, well, that'll be different because you'll have whatever you have laying around for your back cover. Now, this little book measures about 3 by 4.5. So you should have plenty of paper. Now, this is printed on cardstock. I prefer cardstock because it tends not to tear as much, and it's sturdy. So when you add it to the cover, it's going to just make it sturdier. Now I'm placing it where I am deciding which part of the photo I want on my cover. I'm noticing that I'm going to have to trim off some near the binding, and that has to be a straight cut. So I'm just going to mark it where I want to trim. Then I'll use my handy dandy paper trimmer, we all have one of these, and trim off that edge that's going to be next to the binding. The rest doesn't have to be trimmed yet. Now I'm going to use my glue, and my glue, well, it's running out. So when I finish trimming this and I use my glue, I sped it up because my bottle of glue is almost gone, but this stuff, it's not cheap, so we want to make sure we get every drop out of the bottle. So you'll see that it's sped up. Now, if your glue's coming out nice and fast, you don't have to glue as long as I am. But this bottle was, well, there was only glue left in the very top of the bottle, the little applicator top. So, but it was nice because it wasn't like glopping on there. It wasn't over gluing, which I have a little trouble with later. But this bottle of glue, although it took a little while to get the glue out of it, didn't over glue my paper. I know some people put the glue in a different bottle. I haven't gotten to that point yet. So here's the cover. Isn't it pretty? That's another thing I made with artificial intelligence, AI. There's a lot of ways you can make things online with artificial intelligence or AI. It's fun, but you could spend all your time doing that and never get anything made. So, but I really did like these faces, so that's why I decided to use them. Even this piece, with artificial intelligence, you kind of tell it what you want it to do, and then it creates it. It doesn't always turn out the way you want, but it's fun. But it was fun, I should say. It wasn't that much fun. I kind of got bored with it after a while, which is part of who I am. I just get bored easily. So I think that's why I enjoy this kind of thing, because collage is always different. This is my sanding, well, it's actually a nail file that's washable, and I've had it for years. I got it at a beauty supply store. It was $1. I think now it'd probably be twice that because, of course, with inflation, we don't want to go there, do we? We don't want to go there. So here are my elements. I'm going to use that face, And I'm going to use that little journal picture there. And here I'm just adding some, I believe this is vintage paper or parchment, something like that, distress ink, because I wanted to keep this kind of light, feminine, like feminine vintage, if that makes sense. I used a little pink on it and I didn't like what it looked like. So you might see the edges might look a little pink on her, but well, that's because I used some, that was called worn lipstick and it was just too pink. So I went over it with the old paper or vintage linen. Vintage linen, I think that's what this is, yeah. So I tore the corner off of her picture because I wanted to see more of the rose. And you can do it however you want. So my picture's on an angle. I trimmed it on an angle so that when it sat up against that black piece of tape or whatever they use to bind the book, so it's straight there. So you can see I cut it on an angle. Now more glue from my gluey bottle. And there she goes. See how I butt it up against that binding? But it's on an angle. If I get my hand out of the way. Come on. There. See how she's on an angle? Now, I'm using 3 elements. It's more interesting than 2. For some reason, they say an odd number is more interesting. And I have them in a kind of a triangle pattern, which keeps your eye moving around the collage. And yes, this is a collage. Now we're building our collage right on the cover. If you don't want to do that, you could build a little collage and add it to the cover. Just make the cover out of some other kind of background. You know, you could use an old book page. You could use anything. You could use a piece of muslin. You could use anything. And then add your collage. But we're going to build this one right on the book. And I like to, you know, ink all the edges of pieces so that they look more dimensional. It's looking good. I'm noticing that because I didn't put that piece of deli paper in there, the paper stuck. So I'm tearing that out. And here's another hint. If you tear out a front page, make sure you tear out the back page if it's loose, because see, they're attached. And that way it won't fall out later. Now we'll work on the cover inside. And this piece that comes with on your sheet is enough to do 2 covers. But to make sure that I have enough for each cover, I'm just going to pinch it right in the center and cut it down the center to make sure I have enough for each side. If I just decided to wing it and started cutting the cover out of that, I may cut it too far to one side and not have enough and have to print out another one. So another hint is just to fold it in half, cut it in half, and make sure you have enough for each one. Plenty for the inside. And here's the tape I'm going to use. It matches beautifully. And you can use whatever you have in your stash. It doesn't even have to be washi tape. It could be something else, a piece of fabric. Why not? Some people don't have washi tape. Here I'm trying to fix a little place where the cover came separated from the papers, and I'm thinking I want to, you know, fix that. So I put some glue in there, but what I didn't do is fold back the cover, and you'll see what happens later because I made that mistake. Here's the paper for the back cover, so well, I guess we're doing the back cover first. Whatever you have, remember, just use whatever you have. So I'm trimming the edge because that's going to be butted up against the binding on the back, the black piece of strip of whatever kind of tape they use there. And there's the glue, just adding the glue. Now remember, if you use a water-based glue, you're going to want to make sure you get all the bubbles out. I do that here as well, but it's not as, the paper doesn't pucker when you use this glue because it's acetate based, like nail polish remover. So doesn't tend to bubble up. Water-based will tend to do that, and you may have to work a little harder to get it smooth. But you can use it. I wouldn't suggest using a glue stick because a glue stick isn't permanent enough for this project. Now we're going to trim, and make sure when you're trimming that your scissors are at a complete right angle with the cover. What I mean by that is one blade straight up over the other blade of your scissors, not at an angle. If you use an angle, you may end up cutting your cover, and you don't want to do that. Although if you do cut a little cover off, no problem. We'll just sand it away. It's vintage. It'll look fine. Nobody will even notice unless you tell them. If they say it's beautiful and you have a feeling, well, it's not perfect, you want to say, well, I made a mistake. No, don't do that. Just say, thank you so much. Here's our little book. I'm loving it already. Yep, my favorite one, because it's vintage. All right, now we're going to do the cover. Now, here's where I tried to fix that seam, but because I didn't bend the cover back when I glued it, it's separating. But I'm not going to worry about it. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's going to know, like I said, unless I say, well, I meant for this to go this way, but it didn't work. No, don't do it. Don't say it. Just say thank you so much. I enjoy making gifts. Adding the paper. This is cardstock, so, nice and works out really nicely. Can make it flat really nicely with that glue, like I said. And now I'll just trim it away. Now watch my blades on my scissors. Make sure one blade is completely lined up with the bottom blade. Top blade, bottom blade, lined up right over each other. That is what I mean by at a complete right angle, so that you don't end up cutting anything but that piece of cardstock that you have to trim off. Beautiful. And now we'll do the tape. And the washi tape is going to really help with what's happening in that crease where the cover meets the binding. Because this is a slightly wider washi tape, it's really helpful. Now, when you use washi tape in a project like this, you probably already know this, but let me tell you. You want to use glue because washi tape is not made to stick permanently. It's removable. So we need to use glue if we're going to use washi tape, and we want it to be permanent. So I'm putting some glue down the center, and of course it's taking forever because the glue's almost gone. And I am storing that bottle standing on its head so that the glue stays down where it's going to come out. Okay, so here's my washi tape, nice and wide so it goes on my front cover and my first page. I press it on and I trim it. And then I realize, oh no, that seam's opening up. And it's a little crooked. So I decide, I think I'm going to have to remove it. When I remove it, it comes off nicely because it's washi tape. It peels right off. The glue hasn't set yet, so it's going to peel right off. I'm not happy with it, so I'm going to take it off after I trim it again. See, I'm like, oh, it's just not right. It's just not right. I try to fix it. It's just not right. So I decide to remove it. It's not working. And here it comes. It's coming right off. Look at that. Comes right off. Ta-da! Right, that's right. It was the first page. The first page had something on it, and I wasn't happy with it. But for some reason, I didn't need to remove the back page. It must have just been caught up in glue or something that I placed down, so I didn't worry about it. But here's another mistake I made. We learn from our mistakes. You can learn from mine. I did not add any more glue. So when I pressed this in place, I thought, well, that's great. Look, just press it in place. Let's see what happens in a little while. Now we'll do the other page, the back page, the same way. Glue. My beautiful green cardstock pattern. Just lining it up. Using my bone folder to press it down. And now we trim. I don't know if you know this, but there's a little gear over on the side where you go up from the video and you go up where it says channel, like, comment, or whatever across, and then there's a little gear. If you click on that little gear, you can come to a place where it says speed. And you can click on there and you can speed this up. Once you choose what speed you want, just click on it and then go back to the regular page and it will be sped up. I do this a lot of times because sometimes, people talk too long and they don't get to the point, and I like to get to the point. So not only have I skipped ahead, but I've also, sped it up so that I could see the whole thing, but it moves faster. Just another little hint though, when you go from one video to another, it's still sped up. So you may want to go back to normal on your next video. Here I'm just picking out a piece of ephemera from my ephemera keeper, and it's a rose. I also created that. Isn't it pretty? Beautiful. I like cutting. I love to fussy cut, so it's no problem for me to cut these out. I love it. Love it. Some people like to use their Cricut and all that, but to me it's just too much trouble. It's much easier to use my little detail scissors and cut them out. I love it so much. So cute. So every little element that you add to these books makes it that much more special. If you want to add glitter, you want to add pockets, you want to add lace around the edges, whatever, you can. It's all up to you. Now I'm adding a piece of lace that I have in my stash just to dress it up, make it more feminine. After all, it's got a lady on the cover. And I already laid down some glue, and it's a new bottle, so it's a little gooey, little goopy. Another little hint, if you have too much glue on something and you need to remove it, besides using one of those glue removers, you can, those little tools that look like a little eraser. I don't have one in my stash here in the RV, but I do have nail polish remover pads, so I just opened up a nail polish remover pad envelope and stuck a Q-tip way in the bottom of it and rubbed it around, got some acetate on my Q-tip and used it to remove the extra glue on the edges. And it worked. It worked fine. You got to use what you got to use. You got to use what you got. Right? Yeah. Okay, so now here I'm fixing. Had to fix my washi tape because I didn't add enough glue. I didn't add glue the second time when I had removed the tape. Here I decide to add lace, just like on the front. Now this glue, see, it's a new bottle, and it's just oozing, man. It's just oozing. Yeah, add plenty. You'll be sorry. Anyway. And then I add the lace. I love black, but black just doesn't go with vintage, lacy, feminine, light colored roses. And so the lace really works here. And then I cut out my candle. Love it. Love the fussy cutting. Love, love, love the fussy cutting. I ink the edges. And then I add it to the back cover. Add it to the back cover. There we go. Oops, I don't know if you could hear that. I got some little kids outside here at the campground yelling. So much life at campgrounds. So much fun. I love it. Now some trimming. Look at that little book. And here's the other books that go along with it. Now this one here, that's the one for Maine to Florida. I have a piece of this. This is more like a boho ball of cloth ribbon that I've had for ages. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it to tie that little book up. Make it look like a gifty. And, you know, as a gift, you could put these in a cellophane bag. You could put them in a little gift bag. You could make your own little pouch for it. Whatever you want to do. Wrap it in tissue. Make it look special, whatever you do. So that little bow just adds so much. I mean, I've given cards in an envelope and wrapped a ribbon around it just to make it more of a gift and make it stand out from all the other envelopes. Here I'm just cutting the ribbon. If you don't know how to do that, you just fold the bottom edge of the ribbon in half and trim, and you get that forked end. And here's our book. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye.